Media briefing to provide an update on the state of readiness of schools to return for daily attendance is currently underway. Let's listen in.
We met with teacher unions, we met with associations that work with special schools, but also the principals associations, and through the NECT also had meetings with civil society to really engage around the return of school. And I must say from the onset that during our engagements with all the stakeholders, a number of concerns were raised. In particular, from all the meetings, the state of school infrastructure and the feasibility of accommodating all these learners under the current circumstances were raised. And amongst others, there is a question of the delivery of stationery and textbooks, especially in the Eastern Cape. But they also raised the question of overcrowding, which was a problem that we went to the COVID-19 with. And it was identified as an area that needs urgent and special attention. So we did assure our social partners that were presently in talks with the National Treasury to resolve these matters, taking into consideration that these changes or these challenges, they came before COVID-19. So at the right time, we will provide feedback on the progress and the discussions that we are involved with the Minister of Finance and Cabinet on prioritizing this area of infrastructure and see if we can resolve this area and give it the necessary priority attention. The other matters that were raised also in these meetings included the question about teacher supply, replacing teachers that we had lost during COVID-19. So a number of issues were raised by the stakeholders that we engaged with. But in all the engagements, however, there was an overwhelming support for the full return of learners to daily attendance. And this means that the rotational timetabling that we have been applying since 2020 does come to an end. So we have today, which is Sunday, published a gazette which officially ushers in the new environment as per the cabinet decision. CEM, which means a meeting with MECs, met twice this week, and we have agreed that full-time attendance starts tomorrow, Monday, the 7th of February, 2022. As a sector, we remain mindful of the fact that COVID-19 is still with us. All of us have direct responsibility to ensure that we prevent the spread of this virus and its variants. Medical science has informed the decision that had been taken in the past, and as a sector, we continue to follow advice and guidance from public health experts. On Friday, the 4th of February, 2022, the Council of Education Ministers convened to consider the state of readiness for the full return of learners, and we are confident that schools are ready for the new norm. Even yesterday, on Saturday, we did meet with teacher unions again to assess the state of readiness and report to them on the matters that they had raised with us during the course of the week. So in preparation for the return of all schools to daily attendance, provinces have made preparations around the following important areas. First, we had to communicate with parents to ensure and make sure that they understand or they really get ready for the fact that full schooling is resuming. We have adjusted the school timetable. We have adjusted our school assessment programs. All matters relating to assessments and curriculum have been attended to. We have looked at how we really are managing the environment now with the new norm, strengthening our non-pharmaceutical preventions, accelerating and working on infrastructure, as I've reported earlier, continue with the provision of transport because now all learners are coming back on a daily basis, the continued provision of school nutrition, intensified monitoring and oversight, and also looking at the curriculum recovery plans, because as you may appreciate that almost from more than 2 years, we just never had normal schooling. So the return to normal timetabling will assist the sector to intensify its implementation of the recovery plan. The learning losses incurred in the past 2 years are indisputably devastating. At the basic education level, Lekgotla last week, we resolved that the sector will need to be rebooted, recalibrated, and repositioned to withstand the debilitating impact of COVID-19 and any other pandemic or life-threatening challenge that we may face. In the first step towards addressing the crisis of learning losses is to prevent further disruptions in schools and prevent other learning losses when ensuing the health and safety in our schools. The second step will be to introduce measures to catch up on the time lost as well as the teaching time lost. We urge parents and all our stakeholders in the sector to support efforts to ensure that education continues without any further delay. So last week, we did convene our 7th Basic Education Lekgotla, and our theme was equipping learners with knowledge and skills for a changing world in the context of COVID-19. And this Lekgotla anchored its presentations, deliberations, and debates on a number of items, but particularly also in this Lekgotla, we were inspired by national and international experience and innovative practices that were shared by many speakers on highlighting the importance of the Lekgotla theme and the different objectives that we had. Amongst others, we did discuss at length the impact of COVID-19 in education and health, monitoring learning and COVID-19 context, perspectives of learning recovery in the African context, and learner assessment under COVID-19 context. We also took a look around teachers as leading change agents in building a resilient education system, and also shared perspectives and views and the importance of ECD for future learning outcomes. So I don't want to go into all what the Commission said. They'll be in the main speech, so I don't want to take too long. But I can say that in that Lekgotla, we came out very energized to ensure recommendations of that Lekgotla and the implementation and the recovery plans. What we also want to highlight at this meeting is the importance of making sure, and that's what we're going to be working on with teacher unions. We've agreed with parents' bodies that we have to ensure that everybody, we had a very successful campaign, but we want everybody in the system to vaccinate. The sector, the discussions reflected on what we said is the mandate, not mandatory vaccination. There was a new concept of the mandate to vaccinate. So we do want everybody in the sector to vaccinate. We're encouraging our teachers to go for a booster, which is available in different health sites. We also discussed about the need to make sure that we encourage our young people to vaccinate, because we are told that of the 7.7 million qualifying learners, 1.2 has vaccinated. In the past 24 hours, 15,000 young people have vaccinated, but we call on parents and caregivers to encourage young people who qualify to go for vaccinations. On school nutrition, again, what we are very happy about with the return, that now we'll be able to do all our social programs, your school nutrition programs, your vaccination programs for cervical cancer, which we're running, but also your deworming programs are going to come back on board. And that's what is also exciting us about the full return, that all the services that we're providing in schools will be returned. We also focus on the implementation of our sports and enrichment programs. The department, after consultation with different stakeholders, we did publish directions in October and this year also. But we want to encourage all schools to resume with their sports and extracurricular programs, but still comply with hygiene and safety measures. Choir rehearsals, for instance, and other indoor activities must happen in well-ventilated spaces. The department has placed sports and enrichment assistants in schools to reboot the support and the resumption of sports. We will be using, in particular, the Presidential Youth Employment Initiatives, the young people that we have put in school, to assist in these initiatives. But we also continue to encourage young people who have not succeeded in their matric, as I did when I was announcing results, to please register for the second chance. And the registration is closing now on the 15th of February. They may be able to rewrite in May and June, but they can also rewrite at the end of the year. We also are excited that with the return to schools, we will also be able to facilitate our work around the ECD function shift. And so the migration gives us as a sector an opportunity to craft and implement innovative strategies to strengthen the foundation learning, looking at the continuum of birth to early grades. For this reason, one of the key priorities that we have is also to focus on this ECD shift, which is going to begin from the 1st of April this year. I want to say in conclusion, I really want to take this opportunity to thank MEC for all the advice and the guidance that they've been giving us. Thank Cabinet also for heeding to our request to have all schools open and sent back in full numbers. To also thank the MECs from the different provinces for working hard to make sure that indeed, when the announcement came, they all reported, is it Friday, that they will be ready to receive all learners tomorrow. So I'm very grateful for that. But I also want to appreciate the support that we've been receiving around this program, even before during COVID period, and even now, the work that we've been receiving from the NECT, from UNICEF, and other bodies, which have really been helping us in terms of interacting with communities and making sure that we work together. At this point, I really want to express my sincere condolences again to the family of the deputy principal who was shot outside our school in Pumulo, whose funeral was last week, but also express our sincere condolences to the learners in KwaZulu-Natal who were traveling from school, who got involved in a crash in which 2 learners lost their lives and 6 others were injured. We do hope that police will get to the bottom of the matter. It is alleged that alcohol played a role in this incident, but we leave it out to police. And once again, to thank the community for having helped us during the month of January with constant visits, constant gifts to the sector. So we enjoyed lots of attention, but also lots of support from communities. Now, as we want to move towards stability, with respect and humility, is to request that we don't receive more visits. I'm saying, with all respect, that the education month has come to an end. February, we need stability. We would not want to have people now to come and visit us and see how we're doing with the return of all learners. Because the school visits are very welcome, but they also pose serious risk to the sector. And teacher unions raised that with me, that principals get intimidated, but it also opened us to a number of criminal activities, people who come as though they are coming to really support us on the return to school. And then criminals came into some schools, robbed teachers. So we're saying, as we reopen, we are humbly asking the public that we will be fine. We appreciated the visits in January, but from February until next January, we don't want school visits. People can only come to schools with the permission of the principal and also after consulting the SGP, but no one should turn up at our gates from tomorrow to say they're visiting us to check if we are fully ready. Only myself, MECs, SGBs, and school governing bodies can give permission for people to visit, because it does indeed open us to all sorts of difficulties. We've also witnessed undesirable guests in our schools doing all sorts of things that I see on social media. Again, we're requesting people not to come to schools. These children have got parents, their teachers, their school governing bodies, and if they want to provide support, let them do it through the school governing body and principals, and not just pitch up at the school and then take over. And I think we really want to say it with all respect and humility that from tomorrow onwards, we don't wish to have visitors. We will possibly welcome visitors again next January during the Education Month, but for now we are fine. Thank you very much.
We are fine. Don't call us, we'll call you. Thank you so much, Minister, for the statement. I'm not sure if DM has anything to add. If the DG, maybe DG on that issue of the teachers that have not vaccinated. Okay. All right, that's fine. So, can we take questions? Carla, do you have any questions on Teams? We have some of our media colleagues joining us on Teams. If there's anyone there with a question, Carla, let's go for it.
Nothing on thank you.
All right, thank you so much. And back to the room. Any questions? All right, I'm seeing one hand. Okay, two. All right, let me start at the back. Govin, please introduce yourself properly.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's Govin from ENTA. Minister, you had mentioned the issues which have been raised around infrastructure, delivery of stationery and textbooks, and overcrowding. If you could just explain, when the kids go back tomorrow, full classes, how severe are these concerns? Are they going to impact on learning going ahead, or do you believe you can start with learning and then top those up? You said you were engaging with the Treasury to meet the needs of what's required to return to school. Have you got a requested amount that you need from the Treasury, or are you still trying to see how much you will need? Thank you.
All right, thanks for the question.
Morning, Minister. So, Hope from News from Africa. I just want to ask the issue of teachers. You've mentioned that there are plans to replace the teachers that you lost due to the virus. And with all learners going back, that could be a problem, because we've heard how often some teachers are dealing with a lot of children in one class. By when do you think you would have replaced most of the teachers that you would have lost to the virus, just to make things seamless for learning and teaching? Thank you.
All right, those are the questions, Minister. Going to ask you to, please come through.
Okay. Yeah, the question of infrastructure came from all the meetings, with civil society, all meetings, teacher unions, parents, even provinces themselves. When we said we want children back to class, the first thing they asked to say, how do we do it with the infrastructure challenges we had? And I said to them, we had them before COVID. So we can't link the return to classes to our pre-COVID problems. Yes, indeed, we're coming back full, carrying the burden of disease, but we have to strengthen the non-pharmaceuticals and make a plan. If it means we use your specialist rooms, even if it means we take some classes platooning, where you can platoon, but the fact of the matter is, let's agree that all learners are coming back, and school by school should work on the matter, because it's not too many schools, especially in primary schools. Only 20% of primary schools had not returned fully. The majority of primary schools had returned fully. It's in high schools where the majority of high schools had not returned. So what we agreed is to say, yes, we are aware that we have a problem. It's a pre-COVID problem. Let's fast track how we deal with it. In the meantime, in any case, provinces have been dealing with them. I know, for instance, in Gauteng, they've been having a big program on the running of your self-built schools, where committees were given money to build blocks of classrooms in schools. Some provinces indicated to me that they have already ordered the mobiles, but we said, whilst we're waiting for mobiles, we're going to do whatever it takes to do things. About the monies, yes, they have costed, and I can't definitely say the Minister of Finance said, yes, I'll have that money. We have to prioritize and say, where do we start? We're going to start with the existing infrastructure which has been destroyed or storm-damaged schools. And Treasury is working with Public Works and other agencies in government to make sure that there can be just a boom support to us, because as a sector we just really will not cope with all the challenges facing us. So there is a commitment from the Minister of Finance to assist us, both financially but even in terms of capacity. Because the other problem with DBE or education is the capacity to focus on learning and teaching, school feeding, safety, and then school infrastructure. So there is commitment to help us with the school infrastructure. We're meeting also with, even Tuesday, DG and team, with some teams that Treasurer is putting in place to assist us. So we should be, by the time he goes to his budget, we should be able to get a full sense of how much the assistance is going to be. But part of the solutions which I've been discussing with him is to ring-fence the very money that we have. Because in some instances, not the money which is a problem, it's the capacity of the sector to help itself. So with outside help, I think it will help us a lot. In terms of teacher replacements, and what I think, DG, it will be fine, because we have stacks and stacks of reports that came from provinces, where province by province gave us a breakdown to say where are the gaps. So it's not all provinces that have not been able to replace their teachers. It could be, the biggest challenge was in KZN. And even in KZN, the problem of replacing teachers, it's a pre-COVID problem. So we're working with them to help them to stabilize the teacher sections. In the meantime, we will be working with using our teacher assistants to support schools. But some of these assistants are young, unemployed teacher graduates that have not been formally employed. So we'll be using them whilst we process properly their employment in schools. So we have the PYEs until end of March. Is that not so? Until end of March. And in the meantime, we'll be working with them just to keep the system going and the fort going. But the commitment is to fill all vacant posts, even promotional posts, to create a form of stability, because we really need stability if we have to reboot the system. So those were the two questions. Or Kwendishile. Did I leave something? Or the Eastern Cape one?
Yeah.
Because we've been dealing with it, if you don't mind, DG. Now, DG's been dealing with the matter for some time now. Thanks, DG.
This is my future occupation of sanitizing facilities when I retire. Okay, thank you, Minister, Deputy Minister, and colleagues. Just to add on the issue of replacing educators who tragically demised during COVID, it's a normal process when natural attrition happens. Then provinces start with their recruitment, and this happened immediately after some of these incidents happened. And therefore, when schools reopened, Minister, those who tragically succumbed to COVID-19, provinces looked for teachers to replace them. Now, when it comes to what has been occasioned by the need to deal with overcrowding, we also signaled this to provinces as early as 2020, that even though the rotational system was going to happen, it wasn't going to necessarily take away challenges around overcrowding. And that's why, at least where I have been, and I've been to many areas in 3 provinces at least, KZN, Eastern Cape, and Limpopo, I can actually claim that I've I've traversed every area in those 3 provinces, and those are the most problematic, the biggest and the most rural. The landscape of KZN, you go anywhere in that province, you will see mobile classrooms all over. And have supplemented that by also employing additional teachers to be able to deal with additional learning spaces. So that happened as early as 2020. Last year, we've seen that as we are moving around, up to even this past week. So with the return of all learners, the replacement of educators would have been dealt with. Now, stationery and textbooks, Minister, it's a concern of only one province, which is Eastern Cape, and this is how we are told it happened. The HOD in the Eastern Cape, Dr. Mbude, and we've been dealing with this as part of our preparation for 2022. We've got what we call a sector plan to deliver on stationery and textbooks, sector plan, which is developed at DBE, monitored throughout to ensure that all provinces are ready by October of the outgoing academic year in preparation for January the subsequent year. October of the outgoing academic year, we determine the state of readiness for the delivery of stationery and textbooks. From that time, we experienced problems with the Eastern Cape because they had not procured from October 2021. And when we inquired, the problem was that they were still waiting for money from provincial treasury. They had not received money. And they only received money in December when everybody had closed according to the HOD. And that's why we are sitting with this problem in the Eastern Cape. Fortunately, their textbook recovery and retention rate is one of the highest. It's over 90%. I'm talking about textbooks. Now with stationery, unfortunately, you've got to replace every year. And that's why we've had these problems beginning of the year. And by the end of the past week, the HOD had indicated that they were at 90% of the delivery of stationery. So that's about stationery and textbooks, Minister. We are dealing with it up to last night, and yesterday when we finished the meeting with teacher unions, we had a meeting with the Eastern Cape. The HOD is giving us an update virtually every day. Thank you, Minister.